Check.
We'll just wait a couple of minutes for some other people to filter in.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'd like to introduce the CI workshop, The Future of Quality in the Music Ecosystem. And please welcome our presenter, Kieron, General Manager of CI.
Thank you very much. I'll get started. There may be some other people filter in. But yes, so CI is one of the sponsors of Indie Week this year. We're very pleased to do so, as we have for the last few years. This morning I want to talk about the future of quality in the digital music ecosystem, or what that means in layman's terms, how to make great digital products. Just a little bit about who we are for those who don't know us. So CI is a digital music delivery platform. These are some of our clients. They're, I think, clearly the top tier of the independent sector. And we deal with 3.1 million tracks in total across the catalogues of 250 clients. Those range from some distributors or aggregators with hundreds of thousands of tracks down to some small labels with tens of tracks. We deliver to 180 music services from Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon to places like Shazam, Sound Exchange, Grace Note, effectively anywhere that the content or the metadata needs to go across the industry. And given all that, we're delivering one track every second out of our infrastructure out to the market on behalf of our clients. So in the last year, we've grown from 2.5 million to 3.1 million tracks, and we've added 70 clients to our client list. So we're in a phase of strong growth as the digital music ecosystem matures, and with the growth of Merlin and the importance of them, lots of our clients are Merlin members, so it's kind of a symbiotic relationship there. So I'm Kieron Faller, that's my details, email, Twitter, and the CI Twitter handle. Rob Weitzner is with us in the room. He's our North American business development person, so if you're based in the States and you don't already work with us, then talk to Rob about how we could work together. So today I want to run through these three key areas of product quality. So audio, thinking about the actual files that are moving around within the digital ecosystem and how those are created, managed through label processes, provided to someone like a CI or into a distributor, and how those then filter out through the marketplace down to consumers. Artwork is a key aspect of the consumer experience in digital music products. So that's becoming more and more important, and there are more some more diverse ways of displaying that artwork depending on the consumption device that the consumer's using. And the metadata is more and more important in a streaming world, to be found, to be discovered, and to make sure that you actually get paid properly for the usage that happens with your content. So beginning with audio, the key issue here is to think about what master files you're receiving as a label, or what you're outputting if you're an artist or manager or producer. And the basic rule of thumb here is to go as high quality as you can. There's a kind of technical argument as to whether it's even possible to hear the difference of anything above 24-bit 96 kilohertz. So we'd say that that's a good standard to work to. There is some kind of audiophile enthusiasm for 24-bit 192 kilohertz files, but we actually ran a blind listening experiment at an event we did in London a couple of years ago, comparing the same snatch of music in various different file types, down from a 56K MP3 up to a 24-bit 96 kilohertz file. And based on the feedback from the room, once you got above a CD quality file, there was really, it was kind of random as to what people thought was better or worse, CD quality or the higher resolution file. And we ran that experiment in Dolby's kind of show theatre in their London office. So the sound system was incredible. So there wasn't any issue with that. So the sound was definitely being reproduced properly. If you're a label, you're receiving files from producers, from studios, from artists. We'd really encourage you to request a 24-bit 96 kilohertz. If you can mandate that, then to achieve consistency across your catalogue, that would be great. And once you receive them, you need to think about how to store them so that you can use them properly. So obviously we're in the indie label sector, and systems and processes may have various holes in them, depending on what kind of company you are, what kind of label you are. But we'd really recommend having a centralized storage system at the label side, not using in-house hard drives or laptops or things that can get stolen from your premises. That's a key issue. So we'd encourage use of services like Dropbox or Box or Google Drive, some kind of cloud-based centralized repository where you can control access to the files on a user basis, so that if you get broken into and all of your stuff gets stolen, you've actually still got your masters somewhere. And by doing that, you can also make sure that everyone is using the same source master file, so you don't end up with divergent file types or encodes across different people's machines and different people's email inboxes and that kind of thing. So it's kind of in a way, it's a simple practical point, but it's really potentially saves you a lot of time and hassle further down the line. And we'd encourage those master files, those high quality 2496 files, to be pushed as far through the supply chain as possible. So at CI, we very happily take that quality of master file from our clients. We have a quality floor, which is CD quality WAV or FLAC, but we accept anything above that, and we retain that original quality master file in our system, and then we encode that into whatever each service wants. But whatever master file we're supplied with, if it's CD quality or above, then we hold that and maintain that. So, as I say, push the quality as far down the supply chain as you can, because that reduces any issues with losing the audio information earlier than you have to. And then for it to be encoded down at the relevant point in the supply chain. So for us, working with a lot of streaming services, we are delivering CD quality WAV files to most of them, but they're not serving those to their customers. They're encoding within their own system down to either an MP3 320 or perhaps something slightly lower, or producing multiple encodes depending on the use of the file at the consumer's end. So it's really, on the audio side, it's really about maintaining that quality as far down the chain as you can. And in that regard, we recently announced a partnership with MQA, and we're joined by Ken Forsyth from MQA, who's going to talk in a second about what MQA is as an ecosystem of high quality music consumption. But we have integrated MQA's encoding technology into CI's system, so that again, we receive the highest possible quality master. If it's sufficiently authenticated, which Ken will talk about, then we can create an MQA file within our system and push that to any service that supports MQA. And we're the first and currently only way for the independent sector to produce those files through the supply chain. So I'd like to bring Ken up now and welcome him to talk about MQA in the broader ecosystem. Thanks, Ken.
Oops, thanks, Kieron. So who has heard of MQA? Wow, very cool. So MQA is kind of this overarching system to bring the highest quality out of the studio to the consumer. So as Kieron was saying, the higher quality you can present coming out of the studio, out of your label, the more connection we can make to the end user. And there's we see a large part of the market that's desiring higher quality music. And the great news is this is, for us, what we call the up and coming generation of consumers. So it shows very good growth moving forward in the marketplace. But I'll take a few minutes and take you through how MQA works, kind of how we create a file, or actually how CI would create a file, but how you would deliver files into the market. And then I'll kind of take you through how it'll be consumed and played back in the public sector. So what we're working towards ideally is creating MQA files in real time in the studio. Obviously, there would still be a need to go back to archive content and redo that, because unfortunately we have a lot of musicians that aren't here anymore, and that content is still desirable. Or you can complete your work and then hand off to like a CI who can then kind of MQA it. But let's say we start with the master file. So after the work is complete, you hand it to CI. Basically how MQA works is we start with the master file, which is all this great music. And what we figured out is the master file contains all this great music, and we call it fingerprints, but there's actually artifacts generated by the recording chain. And what MQA gives you the ability to do is start with the master, again, which is all the music and the fingerprints of the recording chain, and get back to what the microphone captured, which is the highest quality that anybody's heard. So what we're attempting to give the public is what happened in the studio. The really cool thing about the creativity part of MQA is it still leaves all the creativity, all the subjectivity up to the artist or the engineer or the producer, in that you get to decide what fingerprints come out and what stay in. Because as an artist, I may choose a particular studio because I love the way the board sounds. Well, we know technically the board should have no sound, but if the board is a part of the creative process, you can leave those fingerprints in. And the really exciting, cool thing on the artistic end is once all those decisions are made and you say that this is the master, this is the final take, you can authenticate the file. So it's, yep, this is what Ken's band produced. This is what I want the consumer to hear. I authenticate the file. And when it's played back in your home on a portable device in the car, and you play an MQA authenticated file, there'll be an indication on the playback device that this is an authenticated file by Ken. So the end user's getting this very, very direct connection back to the artist, which is the first time this has ever been done. It's really, really exciting. So from the content creation standpoint, you have the ability to get right back to what the microphone heard, as well as maintain all the creativity in the studio. And then the last thing that CI will do is what we call, they zip the file. Or in MQA terms, we have this crazy terminology we call audio origami. So we take, let's say, a 24.192 file or a 24.96 file, and we begin to fold it down so that what they would deliver to the streaming service is a file that has the original bit depth of the master. So again, if we start with a 24.96 file, they would deliver a 24-bit file, but it would be half the sample rate, so it would actually be at 48 kilohertz. So what we do with the additional information, which is primarily timing information from 48 to 96, is we fold that information, that timing information, and we bury it under the noise floor. So we have a very compact file size, which now means we can, for the first time, economically stream it. And then the playback device, depending on how you play it back, will unfold it to exactly the full bit depth and sample rate of what the master sits at. So what CI would deliver to the streaming provider would be this compact file size, original bit depth, and the sample rate either at 44.1, depending on what the master sat at, or 48, depending on what the master sat at. And that's kind of how the file's created and would be distributed. The cool thing about MQA, and we obviously see this radical shift, I mean, if you've attended anything here towards streaming, that is obviously the biggest segment of growth in the marketplace. But MQA, depending on its market or its kind of technical attributes, MQA could be delivered on CD, DVD, Blu-ray. We're now seeing CD being done in Japan because physical is still very important in Japan. Chesky Records here in the US has launched, an audiophile label has launched, CD here as well. So MQA can go to market in virtually any way, from streaming to download to physical media. So depending on kind of how you still connect with your customer, we can accommodate that. But that's kind of on the front end, supply end of it. As a consumer, the way you would play MQA back is one of three ways. And the first way is what we call no decoder. So in other words, if I took an MQA file and, let's say, stuck it in my iPhone, which has no idea what MQA is, it would play it in its most compact file size, which means in its worst case, it's 60 and 44.1, which is CD quality. In its best case, it's going to be 24-bit 48K, which is higher than CD quality. A part of the MQA encoding is we eliminate these fingerprints of the A to D converter. So even at 16-bit 44.1, CD quality, it sounds better than CD. So kind of, as we joke internal of MQA, in its worst environment, it's better than what we've been listening to for 35 years that we hold as a benchmark. And this is done at no additional hardware charge to the consumer. So we call this a part of MQA's backwards compatibility, because it's basically PCM. It'll play in any PCM device with no decoding. It outperforms CD. The next level of MQA is what we call software or core decode. And this is right now our primary streaming partner, Tidal, is what Tidal's delivering in their app. So they have a software decoder in the title app, which does the first unfold. So that will get you either 24-bit 88.2 or 24-bit 96K, depending on where the master sat. So as the audiophile is saying, now you have high-res audio at no penalty. So there's no additional charge, no additional hardware purchase. We're just using a piece of software that they're using as their music player anyway to get content in. To get the full benefits of MQA, it requires a new DAC, because there's certain instructions that we take, or fingerprints from the actual A to D conversion that's done, that talk to the D to A to give us this linear path between the two. Because as we say kind of in our introduction to MQA, what MQA is trying to provide is a direct link from the microphone in the studio to the home loudspeaker or your headset. So to achieve that, we have to take very specific measurements on the A to D and then connect that directly to the D to A. And that's why you have to buy an MQA DAC to get that final kind of step in the quality, as well as to unfold anything higher than 2496. But we're very, very excited because what MQA, again, provides is very high resolution quality in small compact file sizes, which make it ideal for streaming. And currently we have title streaming MQA and under what they call masters. So right now they're delivering Warner content. Warner was the first to go live, but we'll see Universal content later this year from them. The other streaming service and download service, Nugs. Everybody familiar with Nugs? Nugs is a very cool streaming service. They have selected artists that you can either stream or download the concert the day after. So they're now doing streaming in MQA, which is cool. Obviously with the addition of CI, a very strong partner who's been trained and ready to go with us, we'll start to see some of your content kind of begin to flow, which is great as well. Because kind of this whole ecosystem that we see from an MQA standpoint, for it to be successful, everybody has to participate. So all the labels, including you guys, all means of consumption, so streaming, download, hard disk, all means, and this is kind of where I work for MQA, I work on the hardware side, all the manufacturers have to participate, because I may want to listen to MQA at home, my wife wants to listen to it in the car, and my son wants to listen to it on earbuds. So we have to do home, mobile, car, everything. And then the whole segment of the market, me, my wife, and my son all have to buy it. And we all consume music differently from different ways. So that's kind of the entire ecosystem, and you guys are obviously a key part of it. But that's kind of MQA. And we hope when you kind of get a chance to hear it, if you haven't heard it, you're impressed with the results. We're working, again, really, really hard to get your content as you intend it directly to the consumer. And that's really at the heart of what we're trying to do. So thanks. I'll be around for any questions at the end, but I'm going to turn it back over to Kieron. Thank you.